Good evening once again, Andrew from Pit Pirates. Tonight I'm just going to be cooking a very simple, quick, classic Australian dish, savoury mince, with the beautiful Maleny black Angus beef mince. It's, as you can see, very lean. It's got a really nice dark colour. Not too much blood in the packet. We're going to cook this today with onions, carrots, mushrooms and some peas. We're using some beef stock. You can either use concentrate like this with some water, or you can use cartons of stock, whatever liquid you have to hand. A little bit of Worcester sauce for flavour and some salt and pepper. So it's a very easy dish, usually takes about half an hour. We're going to serve it into these dishes today, and we can freeze these dishes almost full, and then when they're solid we can put mashed potato on the top, and it's much easier to spread the mashed potato evenly, and then we can freeze it again for an easy, quick meal. We've also got a large deep one, which is a soup thing with a lid. We can fill that up as well. It's a really good packed lunch, microwave it and you can have it at work for lunch. So we're going to get started again. Because the mince is super lean, we have to be aware that we've got to start with a little bit of oil. So we're just going to use a little bit of coconut oil, not too much, just enough to soften the onions. And we're going to put this on full heat to start with. So we need to get some heat into the pan, as always with beef mince. We need to try and develop some colour, but we're going to put the onions in first just to get them soft. The easiest way is if we just lift the whole board up, and we're just going to put the onions in. You can chop these coarse if you want to, finer if you want to. It depends on how you like your savoury beef mince. So we're just going to get some colour and soften the onions, and then we're going to add the beef. So as always, we'll just put some seasoning into the pot, just some salt and pepper. I think either I'm running out of battery power or peppercorns or both. Hopefully I'll have this filled up shortly. You see I've got very few peppercorns left. It's not really putting a lot in there. A little bit of salt. And remember, we're seasoning for a kilo of meat today, so this will feed 2 of us tonight, but there's probably going to be 6 portions to freeze. So once again, from a kilo, we're going to have probably 8 portions again. So you can hear it now with a little bit of noise. Okay, if you want to put herbs in, you can. I'm not going to use herbs tonight. I'm just going to use the basic salt, pepper, and Worcester sauce and some beef stock. So it will be delicious. Okay, so you see now we've softened the onions a little bit. They're taking a little bit of colour, but not too much. So we've got to be aware that we've got to cook out the beef. So we're going to put the beef in at this stage. And again, we're going to put the whole kilo of nice lean minced beef in. And as I said before, another feature of grass-fed beef is that it doesn't shed too much oil. So there will be some juice, natural juice coming out of the beef. That's all going to develop some colour and obviously give some flavour to our sauce. But we're just going to break that up and then stir it around and carry on breaking it up until we've got colour on the beef. All we've got in at the minute is salt and pepper. I've not put any Worcester sauce at this stage. We're going to use that at the end to just flavour our sauce. And we're probably going to thicken it with some non-wheaten corn flour today. We're not going to put any gluten into this, but we're just going to put a little bit just to thicken the gravy at the end. You can use gravy granules. If you wish, you can use some gravy ox powder just to thicken the sauce. But all that really is just stock and corn flour mixed together. So we're just going to keep this moving. We've got to develop some colour. Okay, so now you can see we've just come back and it's going a nice brown colour. There's a little bit further to go. But at this stage, I'm going to add some of the other ingredients. Now we're saving the peas right to the end because they're quite tender and otherwise they'll overcook. We're going to hold off on the stock for now. And so what we're going to put in next is we're going to put the carrots and the mushrooms. Carrots, obviously, we've cut them quite small, but they're going to take probably the longest to cook. So we've got to get those in now. And we're going to put the mushrooms in at the same time. Mushrooms don't break apart. They'll just carry on cooking down. So we're just going to get all of that in and cook all of those ingredients together. And then when these are cooked in and we can see that we're happy with the way it's looking, we may well add some water. I think in fact at this stage we will add some water. Because the beef is so dry, dry meaning good, because it's not leaking too much liquid, we're just going to have to add some water. You'll see with the veggies are going to cook down and release some liquid, but there's very little fat and juice from the beef, which is a sign that it's very lean and it's very good quality beef. So we're going to add about 300 mils of water just for now, and we're just going to have that cook the carrots and the mushrooms through. So now we're going to leave this just for about half an hour, and after half an hour this should have cooked down and we should be all good. We will actually put the stock concentrate in now. Again, if you're using a carton of stock, you would have added the carton of stock instead of the water and the stock cube. So just let's make sure we get all of it out of there. Let's mix it around with a bit of the juice, and we don't waste any stock. Okay, so this is a set jelly-like stock, so we're just going to stir it around so it melts into that water, gives it all the good flavour of beef stock. Okay, now we're just going to leave that for about half an hour, and when we come back, we'll probably throw the peas and some Worcester sauce in there, stir it around, taste it for seasoning, and then we're going to thicken it just with some non-wheaten corn flour. Okay, so here we are back again. It's simmered down in the pot. You'll see that it's covered by the stock now. I've just tested some carrot. Obviously that's one of the hardest things in there, and we just need to be able to squash that, so that's nice and soft. Now towards the end we've got a couple of things to do. We're just going to give it a splash of Worcester sauce. It depends how much you like. Some people like more or less. Gives a nice savoury flavour. We'll just have the equivalent of maybe a dessert spoon. There wasn't a great deal there. And just stir that in, and then just frozen peas, and we can even throw them in frozen because there's such a lot of heat in there, they're going to heat up straight away. We don't want to put these in too early because they go grey and overcooked, and they're really quite unpleasant. So we're going to keep them as fresh as we can, and we're just going to throw those in, and we're just going to mix the peas in through with the carrots and the mushrooms and onions. And we generally eat this in a bowl just on its own, and it's really tasty and delicious, especially with this amount. You can serve it with mashed potato, or the good old Aussie favourite, you can have it on toast for breakfast in the morning, and most people will say that it's more delicious when you reheat it for breakfast in the morning. But you'll see now all that's mixed in. We'll just give it a couple of minutes just for the peas just to take the heat. They'll get hot very quickly. It's important that we make sure that all the heat is through all of the food. Just scrape down from the sides, make sure we didn't miss anything. And then here we've got, as I said before, just some non-wheaten corn flour. Now if you look at how much juice we've got in there, we haven't really got a lot, so we're going to put this in a small amount at a time and make sure we thoroughly stir it in before we think of adding any more. You'll see it's bubbling around the side, which indicates it's probably at about 90 degrees. Cornstarch needs 82 degrees to thicken, so we've got to make sure we cook it through before we know that it's had its full effect. So let's just have a look. That's looking a really good colour. There's certainly be enough temperature in the peas, so I'm just going to pull some of the meat up to the side just so we can see that juice in the middle, and I'm probably going to use the spoon and put 4 teaspoons of just cornstarch and water, and then we're going to mix that in. You'll see immediately it's gone a little bit thick, and again this depends on how thick you like your sauce. That's not quite thick enough for me, but I'm just going to cook it through a little bit, and then probably just add maybe the same again, maybe just 2 or 3. You'll see it's starting to behave differently. You can see now it's in sauce rather than stock, but the sauce is still a bit thin, so we just make sure we go all around the pot, and then we're just going to try a little bit more. So I'll probably just put 2 in just to start with, and again you can put in as much as you want, but you really don't want to be adding extra water to thin it down. That's not really the intention. It's not really ideal. If you like more sauce, of course you can add more stock, and you can use a thickener to make more gravy, but we like ours quite meaty. Yeah, I think that's probably almost there. I think we'll probably put another couple of spoons just to finish that off. And again, corn flour's got no flavour. The only thing it does is just thicken your sauce, and that's where all the flavour is. And you'll see the beef now is in a consistent colour. The veggies are cooked. You've got a nice colour from the peas and the carrots. And I think that's probably where we need it to be. As I say, we normally have it on mashed potato, but tonight we've got so much, because this is a kilo, this would comfortably feed 8 people. I'm going to just show you what we can do with this, because it's important that we give you some options. I'll just turn the heat off. We can get some small dishes like this, and if we put the mixture into small dishes, 2 things are going to happen. One thing is it's going to cool down a little bit quicker, which is obviously advisable. We're going to just leave that there, and we're going to freeze it like that. Now, if you freeze it like that and then wrap it up in the freezer, if you get home in the middle of the week, stuck for ideas, you can just make very quickly some mashed potato, instant mash, put it across the top. It's much easier to spread on a frozen base. Put it in the oven, and in half an hour, because it's relatively thin, the heat will cook the potato, go through the base, it'll all be hot and delicious. And that's a very, very quick and easy midweek meal. You can also, as I said before, just looking at this, this is a soup cup, so it's designed to hold soup, and then you seal a lid on the top. This is a perfect container either to freeze or to put in the fridge overnight and take to work as a lunch. Or we can do the same thing with this and just go 2/3 of the way up the pot, and we could actually cover this with mashed potato and either microwave it or bake it in the oven. So we've got all sorts of options. The rest we're just obviously probably going to eat all of this for tea, split into 2 bowls, so it's a nice hearty meal for us. Anyway, it's good flavour, fantastic protein, very little fat, a little bit of coconut fat that went in there, fresh and frozen veggies. You can put whatever veggies you like. Some people put sweet corn. We haven't got any. We don't use sweet corn normally. But any veggies you can put in there, and it works just as well. So you see now the gravy is looking very nice. So that's it, savoury mince.